What if Sukuna was just chill like that? What if he had been a good guy, or at least faked being a good guy? Let's talk about it. All right, first of all, shout out to Mellow Man for asking me about this today. And he just wanted to know, like, what if Sukuna had actually helped Yuji? Like, instead of making his malicious intentions known from the jump, what if he had been like, yo, I'm gonna train you, I'm gonna make you really strong? And he tagged in whenever Yuji needed him, protected his friends, all that jazz. But it was ultimately so that he could craft a powerful opponent for himself. So basically, he was training Yuji to be the thing that he sought the most, right? A true test of his strength. So this is an interesting idea. And honestly, my first thought was Naruto, right? This would basically be the JJK Naruto. What if Sukuna was more like Kurama? And when I first saw JJK, I thought it was Naruto 2.0. You know, a kid that has like this powerful demon locked inside of him. He's got the white-haired, super powerful sensei. He's got the Sasuke-esque deuteragonist in Megami, and yeah, they've got the third person being the girl. So I was like, yeah, Naruto 2.0. So I'm actually really glad the direction JJK went, where Sukuna was basically nothing like Kurama, right? So in the realm where he was, I think it would be a lot like Naruto. It would basically be, you know, Sukuna kind of reluctantly helping Yuji when the times called for it, but, you know, ultimately his true purpose was always just to protect this vessel. Again, in order to create a strong opponent, which isn't what, you know, Kurama was after. But I think aside from that, they would be very similar. The big question here is, since Yuji is Sukuna's vessel, in this timeline, what would Sukuna's plan be to like extract from Yuji in order to fight him at some point, right? And maybe we could just jump back into what actually happened in JJK. And spoiler warning, because I don't think I gave one of those yet, so spoiler warning. Maybe he does ultimately jump into Megami and then has a big duel with Yuji as opposed to Gojo. So the story would need to be, you know, pretty different. And, you know, does Sukuna ever like truly warm up to Yuji, and, you know, their final fight is more of like a test of pride and strength rather than like a malicious bout where they have to save the world? I don't know. And while we're talking about this timeline, it kind of plays into another question I got here from Granola, which was, what if Yuji had unlocked Shrine and blood manipulation at like the beginning of the series? How might things have changed? And if we assume this situation where Sukuna is like training Yuji and specifically trying to help him, then maybe he would have unlocked Shrine way earlier, right? Now, blood manipulation's a bit more convoluted because that required eating the Curse Womb death paintings. But let's just say he has both of those, right? Near the beginning of the series, and that's thanks to Sukuna's tutelage. Obviously, this changes the story a bunch. And I think in this case, we would need to nerf Yuji's physicals, because that was kind of his whole thing, right? Like, he didn't have a curse technique, but he was like this tank, like an absolute force of nature. So if we have that and the curse techniques from the jump, I think he's just like too strong for the story, especially if Sukuna is teaching him jujutsu, right? So I think we need to make him more of a normal guy, but with Sukuna's curse technique. And maybe that would help balance things out a bit. But other than that, I don't really know how much it changes, because even if he has the techniques early on in the series, he's not going to be a master with them, right? Because he's still learning all of this for the first time. He's certainly not going to have a domain expansion anytime soon or anything like that, RCT, etc., right? So I think it would just be a different flavor of the same JJK we got, right? Rather than the man chosen by the Black Sparks, it's just going to be the second coming of Sukuna, right? How he uses Shrine. And it would be interesting to see like Yuji's interpretation of that earlier in the series and see how that evolves, you know, with his like scissors and stuff as opposed to Sukuna's slashes. So yeah, I mean, obviously things would be different, but again, in my opinion, since we would need to nerf Yuji because of that, I don't really think things change too much in terms of like, oh, he just barrel rolls the entire story now. Like, I think it would still be interesting. But ultimately from there, it's just kind of how we want to say this ripple effect changes the story, right? Like, does Sukuna stick to his guns and he truly is doing this just to like betray Yuji at the end of the day and get his really powerful opponent fight? If so, then I think we need to alter Gojo's place in the story a lot, because it doesn't really make sense to have like the huge Shinjuku Gojo showdown and then like the huge Yuji showdown that he's been training him for the whole time, right? So maybe in this timeline of events, Gojo either like dies during the Shibuya incident, like the entire plan is, instead of trapping him in the prison realm, killing him somehow. Now, how would they do that? I don't know. Or maybe he just is trapped in the prison realm for the entire story and isn't let out until the end or something like that. But in any case, I think we would need to alter him, right? But if instead the story changes to where, like, kind of like Naruto and Kurama, Sukuna does like kind of become not necessarily like a good guy, but he's not necessarily malicious and evil with his intentions any longer, then perhaps it is more of a, okay, we got to actually work together to stop Kenjaku now. Like maybe Kenjaku successfully gets off the merger in this timeline and it takes all hands on deck to try to deal with it. And so maybe like Sukuna actually gets his true final fight against the merger, or maybe sacrifices himself or something. It's like, how Naruto do we want to get here? And then speaking of a successful merger, I actually got this comment from Music, who said, if I was Kenjaku starting in the Heian era, how would I go about completing the merger? And I would know everything that Kenjaku knew or reasonably could have known. And I don't know. Like, I certainly don't think I would be in any better a position than him. Like, maybe if we're also giving me like future knowledge, like I get the benefit of knowing everything that happens in JJK, so I could like specifically plan for where things went wrong, notably getting jumped by Yuta and Toto, and also Takaba, right? Being able to prepare for that. Because ultimately, I think he put together an amazing plan, right? He managed to subdue a Six Eyes Limitless user with the prison realm, which would be my biggest threat or biggest, obstacle standing in my way, just like it was for him. He ran into Six Eyes Limitless users over and over until he finally figured out the prison realm strategy. So I don't think I could think of anything better in that regard. And then being able to basically loop in Sukuna as your ally was also key, right? Because, once Gojo did inevitably break out, Sukuna was able to deal with that for him. So I really don't know, because I mean, we also needed the culling games to facilitate the murder. He needed that like death and release of cursed energy, and I don't really know of a way to like make that more efficient or better. I mean, he even had backup plans in place, like bringing in the U.S. military, right? So again, I mean, I just don't know of anything that it's like, oh yeah, he should have done this one thing and it would have been a success, right? So I don't know. Like, I feel bad that I don't have a better answer to this, but I really don't think he did anything wrong. Like, if anything, he was just suffered because of the plot, right? The only thing I can even think of is if Kenjaku had put some sort of kill switch in Yuji to just take him off the board if ever he needed to. And really, I can only say that because I have the benefit of knowing what happens in JJK. Kenny had no idea what was going to happen, right? But if you just take Yuji out of the equation in the Shinjuku Showdown, then Sukuna wins, right? Because if Yuji's not there weakening his hold over Megami, he can deal with everyone there. And if Sukuna deals with everyone there, the merger is enacted, so Kenjaku would have ultimately been successful. So that's the only thing I can kind of think of. Anyways, y'all let me know your thoughts on all of these things, and as always, thank you for watching.